Welcome back to the Budding Author Podcast with me, Simon Ward, your host. We're also on podcast, so we can get into the action on there and listen along. But today's guest is going to talk to us about the importance of challenging yourself. And we have Lisa Haden, singer, songwriter, and published author. Hello, Lisa.
Hi.
Good to
Hi.
have you on the show. Good to have you on the
Thank you
show.
for having me.
It's my pleasure. And we were talking just before we went on air about the challenge. I think it's a big step forward for anyone to sort of put themselves out there. And you're obviously doing that as an author, a singer, and a songwriter. So just tell us how that came about for you to take that leap.
Well, I'd been in. I've never particularly been confident, but as a child, I love music. I love reading books and writing. So my childhood dreams were to become an author and to write a song that made people happy. But I was never particularly confident. Hated performing. Hated the sound of my own voice. And then I recently got out of a marriage that was quite abusive. So I had my confidence completely knocked out of me, and I got to the point where I didn't really recognise who I was anymore. And then my children, they started to say things like they wanted to be singers and do these outgoing sort of jobs or careers. And they asked me if it was something I would do, and I said no, I'm not really brave enough to. So they then said that they weren't brave enough to because they were copying me, they were mimicking my behaviour. So that gave me the confidence then to say, actually, I need to lead by example here. I need to push myself out my comfort zone and show them that you can follow your dreams, and you just need to be brave enough to do that. And I think part of it was also because I felt like I needed to get a part of myself back and build my confidence again. And you can't build your confidence unless you take risks, push yourself out of your comfort zone and challenge yourself.
That's absolutely. I think part of the issue with the world in some respects is children aren't getting that example to sort of strive and push forward. And it's an inspiration really to hear you saying that sort of you felt sort of quite shy and held back, and it was actually from your children that have sort of helped you to sort of show that you can lead. And that's a great message to anybody who's sort of thinking about writing or worried about whether to publish their book. You have to put yourself out there, don't you?
You do. You have to take the risks. You have to step out your comfort zone, but also you have to have confidence in yourself, because if you're not confident in you, then other people aren't going to be confident in you. And this was a problem that I had initially with my singer-songwriting, is because I don't like the sound of my own voice, and because I wasn't confident, you could hear that in the music that I produced. And it was only by continuing to push myself and gaining a little bit of confidence that actually that sort of started to strengthen my vocals and my music. And people really started to comment on how I was growing as a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was particularly the skills, it was more so the confidence behind the work.
I think confidence is a lot of the way there. I'm sure I haven't heard your voice. I know you've got stuff on BBC now, haven't you? You've been on
Yeah.
BBC.
Yeah, I was played on BBC Radio and then added to a BBC Sounds playlist by Brody's Fane, I think it was. And that was really cool because the playlist had like Taylor Swift and Katy Perry and Ed Sheeran, and then there's me just whacked onto there. So that was
cool. Well, that's awesome. That is. I sing karaoke. I'm not particularly good at singing, but I just love singing. But what I've found is people love the confidence. So I have the confidence to sing. Maybe I don't have the voice, but I enjoy singing. And there's a phrase that people say, he's not singing because he's happy. He's happy because he's singing. Because it does make you feel good, doesn't it? Singing.
It does. I think partly because you have to be in the song. So if the song's a happy song, you have to have that happy sort of mindset. And if it's a sad song, then you have to feel the emotion behind the song. So it kind of takes you out of yourself and puts you into almost like a role play kind of thing, which I think that's really fantastic for helping to sort of separate yourself from life when life gets a little bit difficult.
That's interesting. I think I've got the wrong songs then, I think. my songs aren't that happy really. When You're Gone, the Bryan Adams song, is my go-to.
Yeah,
I love that.
that song.
And Living on a Prayer. And
Fancy yourself as a bit of a Bon Jovi.
yeah, and then Delilah. And but my favourite that I sing occasionally, if I have a partner singing with me, is the Islands in the Stream.
Oh, I was just thinking that's one of my favourite karaoke songs to sort of. I don't do karaoke because of the whole not enjoying performing thing, but when I listen to other people and they're duetting, I always hope that they'll sing that song because I just love it.
Yeah, I just love that song. And 80s music generally, I'm sort of completely sold on. So you don't do karaoke at all then?
I haven't performed since I was 18 and I'm now 39. So not in a good 20 odd years have I performed, with the exception of recording my recent songs in front of other people. And even that took a lot to do. I've been working with a guy, Chris Fowler, who's a fantastic musician and he's very experienced. And my first time singing with him, he had to put the microphone over the other side of the room and gradually move it closer and closer. And he said, I'm not turning it on, don't worry, I'm not turning it on. And eventually, towards the end, he did turn it on. But it took a full day just to get the microphone from one side of the room right close to me because I'm just that nervous about singing.
He sounds like a great guy. And it's clear that sort of you're on a journey there. And to have somebody alongside you that's sort of bringing you along slowly rather than sort of throw you into a crowd of 10,000 people sort of thing is fantastic.
Yeah, he pushes me. So every day, every time I work with him, he pushes me to be a better singer-songwriter and a better musician. But he doesn't do it in a way where it's too much. So he's very, very patient. He's worked with me. I've been doing this now with him for about 12 months. And honestly, if it wasn't for him, I don't think that I'd have a singer-songwriter journey to be able to talk about right now, because it is a simple case of he sort of slowly got me to the right stage. And even now, like, we'll be together and he'll say, right, that was good, but I want you can do better. And he won't say that was bad. He will say, you can do better than that. Show me better. So he's constant encouragement and very patient. And I think that's exactly what I need. I don't need someone to tell me that I'm doing great. I need someone to tell me how to be better.
And how have your children responded
to all of it? They've been my biggest fans. They absolutely love all of it. I was worried that when I first started doing singing and producing my own songs, I thought that they would be a little bit embarrassed of Mum. I've got a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. Now, my 4-year-old, bless him, he's a bit too young, and you know, he loves music. He loves listening to Mummy's music on Spotify. But my 12 and my 8-year-old are they're my biggest fans. They love brilliant. My songs. So my 8-year-old actually went into class and I've got these bookmarks and it's got a QR code where you can scan it and it takes you to all my links. And I went to pick her up from school one day and all the kids ran out and about 4 or 5 different children came up to me saying, I love your songs. I love your songs. Turns out that they've been listening to them for a few days in class because they're all children friendly. So yeah, they love it.
And the link for that is going to be in the description. So check out the description to get into Lisa's music. Tell me about Unprecedented Times. This is a mix of fact and fiction about COVID, isn't it?
It is. It wasn't intended to be a mix of fact and fiction to begin with. It was meant to be a fiction novel. So I had the idea for this as soon as the COVID pandemic, and not it before it became a pandemic. As soon as it came out at the end of December in China, before it spread anywhere else, everyone was talking about it, saying, "Oh, it's not going to be anything. It's not going to affect us." And I just thought, well, what if it does? And I had this story idea where it spread around the world. It infected every country. We went into lockdown, and then real life started to sort of follow that
So you
story.
predicted it, Brett. You predicted it then.
No, not exactly, because in my story, without giving any spoilers away, in my story, the virus mutates, and it threatens to sort of wipe out humanity. So, but for months and months, I was watching it follow my storyline, thinking, "Oh crikey, I hope it sort of dies down, because otherwise, I might have actually killed humanity here." So there was a bit of a panic. So that's why it ended up being a fact meets fiction, because actually I was then able to put in real statistics, real data from the COVID pandemic into the story,
Okay,
which
yeah.
bolstered the storyline. It strengthened it, made it more realistic, but also it meant that future generations could then look back on the story and see what the pandemic was like to actually live through, when they perhaps didn't experience it themselves.
It was quite a timely journey then. So, what was your writing process? Did you sort of do a full first draft? How did that go for you?
I wrote a full plan in January, and then started writing it up in March. And when I started writing it up in March, that was round about the sort of time when people were just starting to go into lockdown. So then I was able to then put things that I was seeing on television and in the news and whatnot. I was then able to integrate that into the book quite nicely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it worked out quite strange with the timings. To be fair, I think it would have, I could have understood it more if I'd have written it after, like sort of halfway through the pandemic. But the fact that I started it before it even became a pandemic, and then all these sort of milestones in my book, up until halfway through my book, all the milestones in that story are the exact same as they were in real life, and that was quite scary.
So you're sort of dropping in detail in your editing phase because it was actually happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'd got it all planned out by the end of January, February, and was actually writing up the full story then in March. And fortunately, lockdown gave me a lot of time to write up that story after
Yeah.
homeschooling the 3 children.
I think the scary thing could be is if when you write your second book, people are going to be a bit worried, aren't they?
No, the second book is a follow-on from the first book. So
Yeah.
unless the virus actually does mutate and we see the latter end of my first book come to real life, my second book can't happen in real life, which is good. I don't want to live in that world.
Of course, of course. Did you have any help on editing, or is that something you just did yourself?
Well, I'm a single mum of 3 on benefits, so I can't afford hundreds or thousands of pounds on an editor. But I'm very fortunate in the sense of I've got a lot of very good followers on social media. So I actually had a lot of free help from people on social media. So there was a couple of people who picked up a chapter here and there, and then there was a couple of people who actually read the full book and worked with me to just fine tune it really. So I didn't pay for an editor. I got free assistance with that from people who I can now class as friends on social media.
Ah, that's brilliant. So you've got quite a good following on social media, 53,000, I think, on Twitter or X or whatever people want to call it this week. That's pretty amazing stuff, really. I think that the editing thing can be an expensive game, can't it? It's and to make a profit with paying out a lot on an editor would be very difficult. How about marketing the book? What did you do to get the word out there?
I've basically just marketed it myself. The same way I don't have money for an editor, I don't have money for marketing. But fortunately, in my day job, I'm self-employed content writer and digital marketer and social media marketer. So I applied the skills that I've got from that sort of trade, created a website, created my LinkedIn, which has got all my links on there to just make it easy for people to follow me. And then sort of started to spread the word on social media. And I think it helps having that good following. I've only been on social media now for about 2-3 years, and the people on there, because I've been so supportive of them, they're quite happy to support me. And I think that them other people sharing your work for you holds more weight than you going, look at what I've done, look at what I've done. When someone else is saying, look at what this person's done, it makes people stop and think and look a little bit more, because they're seeing that as, well, it must be good if other people are promoting it. The product must be good, or there must be something good about this. So really, it's just been social media marketing and silly little things like giveaways. I've sold some autographed novels, which have gone down really well. I've created little bookmarks with my autograph on them and the QR code, and passed those out to things like libraries and schools and things like that. So it's all very cheaply done and very slow going. But I think that the people that I'm attracting are people who are genuinely interested, rather than people who are just having it shoved in their face and going, oh, fine, I'll have a look at it just to get rid of you.
I think this giveaways and QR codes, as you say, that's quite a real cost-effective way of sort of promoting. I need to learn a lot from you, I think, on that. We need to have a separate discussion, and you can help me a bit. My social media, I've not been very good with social media, in fairness. With the show, I am trying to do more. But sort of I'm nowhere near your numbers and that sort of thing. So I am working at it, and it's climbing, but still relatively slowly. So yeah, I need some tips from you, don't I? So the QR codes, how does that work then? What did you do with that?
Oh, well, that's quite simple. On Linktree, which has got all my social media links on, and websites and whatnot, if you go to share, it actually generates a QR code for you. So you can just copy.
Linktree, is that free? Is it Linktree?
Yeah, there is a paid version. I don't bother with the paid version. The free one does what I need it to. So and you just generate the QR code free from that, and then you can use that on any sort of promotional marketing materials that you print off. People can then just scan that with their phone, and it's a much more convenient way than going and handing out business cards, primarily because people can't lose a digital QR code, or they can always revisit that Linktree at a later date. Whereas if you hand out business cards and things like that, they can get lost, they can get thrown in the bin, and it's an expense as well, because you're having to pay to print those off.
Yeah, I think particularly when you're relatively new to writing and publishing, you've got to be careful to sort of keep an eye on the money, haven't you? And sort of make sure that you're not throwing, I think, good money after bad, I think is the term that people might use.
But that's it. It doesn't, you don't make a lot from being an author, because what people fail to see is that even if you're self-published through Amazon, they take a large chunk of that payment. So if I sell a book for £6, I don't get £6 from it. Amazon take off their printing fees, they take off other fees. So actually, I'm selling a book for £6, and what I'm making from that is 99 pence.
And I think online, my paperbacks about £1, make about £1 on a paperback, about £2 on an ebook, I think.
So mine is literally a flat rate. I've worked out all the prices so that I'm literally just making £1 off of each one, whether it's ebook, paperback, or hardcover. Because people want the hardcover, but then that was another expense, because I had to pay then to get a book cover made, and then pay again to get a hardcover made. Now, some people have spent £500 on having a book cover done. I spent 25 quid off Fiverr and just got lucky that I got someone who was good and who worked with me.
Yeah, I used a girl on Fiverr for doing my book covers, and that's one of the three.
Oh, I love
Time,
that.
and so I was really chuffed with that. I think there is a bit of a similarity between what you've done with Unprecedented Times with my trilogy. Finding Love in 2045 sort of has the point at which sort of artificial humans effectively, sort of how that merges together with sex bots and that sort of thing. And all the technology for that during my research, my fear was that this was all going to happen before I had a chance to get the book done. So and still now, I think 2045, I'm thinking I can see this happening by 2035 because like the sex dolls and that sort of sex bots and that sort of stuff, that's already happens. And then the way things are moving with AI and artificial general intelligence, it's just in my book, Finding Love in 2045, they merge the two between the sex bots that exist now plus the advances in technology that's going on with robots now, and merging the two together is part of the premise in Finding Love in 2045. It is centered around a girl in her mid-20s who's struggled to find love. So it has lots of ups and downs with her relationships and her struggle to find love. And her best buddy is the housebot. That's effectively what that is. But this is not about me; it's about you. So what's going to be number 2? What's going to be next for you, and how far away is that going to be?
Oh, well, book number 2 is going to be, I've got a name for it. I've got the cover sorted. It's thoroughly planned. I just need to sort of crack on and write it. Unfortunately, these last sort of year or two have been very difficult in my personal life, so I haven't sort of been able to do that as of yet. But I'm hoping that will be out within the next year. That follows on from Unprecedented Times. So this one, book number 2, it's another dystopian science fiction novel. So it's following on in this alternative history that I've created. I can't really say much more about the second book without spoiling the ending of the first novel.
Okay.
But basically, it follows on from this idea. In the first novel, the virus mutates and the world leaders have this choice to make. We can either do nothing and lose like 75% of the world's population, or we can eradicate, i.e. kill the people who have been infected with the COVID before it mutates to the stronger strand. Or we can eradicate them, or we can extract them from society and sort of keep them over there, and while we try and figure out vaccine and a way of protecting humanity from. So the tagline for that is, how far will we go to save our, will we lose our humanity to save our humanity? So it's quite thought-provoking, and I'm hoping the second one will follow on from that. And there's more of a dystopian new world that I've created that people are actually quite excited to learn more about after having read the first book. So I'm really interested to get into the nitty-gritty of that. So yeah, that's really exciting.
That sounds good. It's interesting your process. A lot of authors, when they first start, are more of pantsers, so they'll see to your pants, sort of writing the story. But you're 100% in the planning, planner.
I can't do pantsing. Pantsing, it stresses me out. I'm that person that when it comes to Christmas, because I've got 3 children, when it comes to Christmas, I have a spreadsheet. So I've got a spreadsheet for every single Christmas for the last few Christmases, because I need to know exactly who's getting what, where I'm getting it from, when it's arriving, when it was ordered. I can't pants, because if I do, then I know that I'm going to miss something out that was really important. And the research for my books are quite heavy going, because I'm not a scientist, but I need to know this information in order to make it factually correct and believable. And also it has to follow a very strict timeline, and I don't want to have one of those books where people end up ripping it apart and go, well, that can't happen because that happened then and she's contradicted herself here. So for me, it's just very important that every step in the story is meticulously thought out and planned to avoid that happening. So like, this is why it's a trilogy, because when I first planned the story, I looked at it and thought, this is too much for one book, and it's too much for two books. It has to be a trilogy because it's got these three natural stopping points in the whole story. So actually that bit works as a good book, that bit works as a good book, and you could read each one as a standalone book, but in order to get the full picture,
I think that's important to have. Each one needs to be standalone as well. I think there's funny the parallels between your stuff and mine, because Finding Love in 2045 was would have been too big a book for the story. So I split it into two because there's a change halfway through. Awoken in 2046 is the second book that follows on from that. And for the first novel as well, sort of, you don't want it to be too long.
No, that's it.
And I think if I'd have combined them all, it'd have been about 130,000 words, which is just sort of like, just mad, really.
Unless you're writing a dictionary,
Unless you're writing a dictionary. Well, for a little bit of my story sort of thing, because it's ended up being a trilogy. One of the characters that's in Finding Love in 2045 and Awoken in 2046, his story lends itself to a short story competition I'd entered, part of the Create 50 community. They asked for a twisted horror story, a short story, and I wrote a story for that, which did very well actually. It was selected for the final.
Congratulations.
I received a contract and everything for it, so it was sort of really exciting times. And Time to Click, that one I show there, that is the short story sort of extended that then becomes the first book of the series that leads into Finding Love in 2045. It's all sort of bits pulling together. Originally, I was a bit of a pantser, but the more I write, the more I'm sort of going into planning, as it were. Just want to mention, I've got a little bit of a thank you to put in. Just like to thank Barry Collins. He's sort of supporting the channel. So great sort of thanks for him. And if you'd like to support me and the show, check out my books on Amazon, because that's what it's all about, really. I want more of my books to be read. If you'd like to make a contribution, you can check my contact details in the description and have a look at that. But we've got to check in the description and see what Lisa's doing next. Any more appearances on the BBC coming for you, or not yet?
Oh, I don't know. They have to like my stuff and want to show it. So it's really just a case of if I produce something else that they really like. So in the interim, I'm just going to keep making music. I've got a lot of lyrics written up on my website that I want to turn into songs. I'm doing a couple of songs for Chris Fowler. He's got a massive catalogue of songs, so he wants me to learn his vocals to some, so I'm going to continue that. I need to make some more GIFs because I have my own Giphy range, which has got over 80 million views now. And
80 million views?
Yeah. It's been ridiculously popular.
We'll have a link in the description for that as well. We'll have a look at those.
So I might do a few new ones of those, and then just crack on with this book, really. And I think that's the other important thing, is not to put too much pressure on yourself to say, right, I'm going to achieve this and I'm going to do that, because I see a lot of people on social media, whether it's authors or singer-songwriters, becoming very disappointed that they're not famous all of a sudden overnight. Whereas I've never done this to be famous. I've just done it to simply build my confidence and just to finally put myself out there and show my work. And I think that that's a good piece of advice that anyone should take, is to not put pressure on yourself and to just enjoy the little wins, and, you know, just celebrate the fact that you've actually written a book or produced a song.
I think the amount of people I've spoken to, and the moment you mentioned to them that you've written a book, and like for me, sort of three novels have been produced, and it's like you can see they're just like they just can't believe it. And then when my career was sort of involved in lean manufacturing and Six Sigma, which is very sort of manufacturing based. So when I say I've written a book, they all think it's sort of, oh, is it to do with manufacturing? It's like, no. Sort of dark romance, sci-fi and that sort of stuff. And they're going, hey, what's this about? And then so sort of drawing people in with that. So it's fun. And I think not getting ahead of yourself, really. I think building a career as an author is tough. And singer-songwriter, same again. It's a very tough road. But I think the way you're doing it and building up your self-confidence doing it is a superb message to everybody. So thank you very much for coming on the show. And you're an inspiration to all those shy people. I can't class myself as shy. I don't think I've been shy since I was about 11. I don't think. But I mean, but you've been fantastic. Thanks very much for coming on. And
thank you for having me.
Check Lisa's links in the description. Check out all the great stuff she's doing. And subscribe to the show. Check out the podcast. And we'll see you all again. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.